It's time to help you catch up on the latest AI in marketing news with Mahek and Matt on the Digital Marketing Masters Podcast today. Now on with the show.
Hey everyone, this is Mahek here, and today I have Matt Rouse with me, your co host and author of Drum Rolls. Will AI take my job too? Well, I hope it doesn't. And the last time I checked, it's June 11th on a Thursday, and AI still seems to be doing a lot of human work. So, Matt, I'm going to throw a few AI questions at you today and get your expert opinion on what actually matters. So, let's start with a big one.
Sure.
Reuters reported a new poll saying that about half of Americans are worried AI can put them or someone in their household out of work. And honestly, I get it because every AI headline right now is either this will change humanity forever or congratulations and good luck paying rent.
Right.
So, Matt, what do you think? Are people right to be worried? And are these fears around job loss actually justified?
Yes.
Okay, then.
So to expand on that, though, what generally happens, and I mean, it's tough to generalize, but if you're going to talk about the future, you pretty much have to generalize about things because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But that said, people overestimate what's going to happen in the short term and they underestimate what's going to happen in the long term. So if people see like a whole bunch of stuff happening, a bunch of AI adoption, companies doing a bunch of layoffs, they go, oh my God, AI is going to take everybody's job. But then AI doesn't take everybody's job over the next year. And people go, well, you know what? I guess that didn't happen. Now I'm not worried about it at all. But that's when they need to start worrying about it, right? When everybody's like, yeah, it's probably not that bad, that's when things are going to start to get bad, right?
Yeah.
But also, things can kind of split. They can go one of two ways generally. Either it's going to make a whole bunch of jobs because of new discoveries, new businesses and roles that no one had ever thought of in the past. The example I always use is if you go back to when I was young, like in the 1900s, as my daughter likes to call it, in the 1900s, no one was a web developer, right? It's a job that didn't exist, until like the late 90s. So, like in 1980, if you asked somebody if they wanted to train to be a web developer, the web didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a thing that doesn't exist. So there another one, and this is an interesting one. There's an old job from back in the day in London, several hundred years ago. There's these people had these really long sticks and it had like a little wood knobby on it. And they were called knocker uppers. That was the name of the job. They would walk around and everybody who would give them a couple shillings or however the amount was back then, they would tap on their windows in the morning to get them up for work. The
Wow.
lock had not been invented yet.
I need a knocker upper.
Right. So the job of the knocker upper was taken away when the invention of the alarm clock came along, right? So there's going to be job loss, and there also will be people who pivot or move from one industry to another. However, there's another issue, and this is another thing that people don't understand as well either, is that one time in your home, if you wanted to have entertainment in your house, you had to play the piano or like some instrument, but usually it was the piano. Radios didn't exist, but the phonograph came along, and now you could play music that somebody else had recorded. What happened is people stopped buying pianos, everybody started buying phonographs. But if you were a factory worker building pianos, all you had to do is go across the street, get retrained how to build a phonograph instead of a piano, and your job's good. Problem is, if you're something like you're a support worker, you're a data analyst, you're a, entry-level programmer, whatever the thing is, and AI takes that job, you could probably retrain for another job, but there's like there's no similar job that hasn't already been also laid off because the AI can already do that thing.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, it could go kind of two ways. One of them is lots of jobs are created and pretty much everybody can pivot. There might be a gap between when it starts and when that happens. And who knows how long that gap is going to be, right?
Yeah.
It could be 3 months, could be 6 months, could be 2 years. The longer the gap is, the more that it harms the economy and people, right? Another thing, and I think this is really worth mentioning, is there are a lot of jobs that are already understaffed by a lot. And one of these is pretty much anything in the medical field. When AI systems could read like X-rays and reports for radiologists, everybody thought the radiologist job was going to disappear in like 2 years. But now radiologists get paid on average 30 to 60% more than they did 2 years ago because they're handling twice as many cases because they're using the AI to help them. There are things like cancerous tumors that the AI can find that humans can't, but there's also ones that the radiologists find that the AI doesn't find. So it turns out that when they work together, they could be more efficient. And when they were more efficient, they could make more money, right? But also, there's not enough of them. So, as they're trying to hurry to train more radiologists, you have a combination of things where you have radiologists are in demand, but they're also increasingly important. And as the testing equipment and stuff like that improves, they can do these tests faster. And, so it might be a radiologist might have looked at, I don't know anything about how long it takes, but maybe they took 10 patients a day, a year ago, and now they're doing 20. Maybe 2 years from now they'll do 40.
Yeah. Well, that makes so much sense. And what I'm getting right now is that it's not like everyone panic immediately, but it's also not ignore it and hope your job magically sort of stays the same. And I think that's the part people are feeling, right? It's not just
Yeah,
fear, it's a lot of confusion. Like, okay, AI is here and we cannot deny that. Great. But like, now what am I supposed to do with that information besides feeling vaguely threatened by my laptop?
right.
So,
Well, there's people have I think in science they call it observational bias or observer bias. So the more that you see people are getting laid off and companies saying it's because of AI, the more worried you are that AI is going to make you get laid off.
hmm,
But it's also true that if a company has to lay off like 15% of its staff, most people who invested that stock would be like, holy crap, this company's in trouble, right?
yeah.
But if they go, no, we're laying them off because of AI, they're like, oh, that's fine. So you
So,
can't really believe that all of those gains were actually from AI unless that company, specifically has something that AI is logically going to help them have those efficiencies.
yeah.
Most companies, I don't think that's the case.
Hmm. So I guess the better question is to not just ask, will AI take my job? But it's like, which part of my work is changing first and how do I still stay useful?
I think it's important to think about in the future, what are the things in your job that could be done or automated, and which things are going to be kind of a requirement to have a human involved, and to kind of focus your expertise or your promotion or looking for work or whatever that is, focus on those things that are difficult tasks to replicate for an AI, or that at least now seem like it's not going to happen anytime soon.
That makes so much sense. And I like that because it gives people something more useful than just doom scrolling AI headlines. And it's almost like doing an audit of your own work, but not in a scary way. Just honestly looking at what can be sped up, what can be supported, and where your actual value is. And that is the part people miss. AI doesn't just force you to learn new tools, it forces you to understand your own role better. has taught me a lot about how to be more practical about certain aspects of my job. And I said something similar in my solo episode. For anyone here who's a creative lead or a director, go check out the previous episode. I talked about how artificial intelligence has, in fact, expanded the creative role and is now an extension of the whole department. Okay, on to the next one.
Okay.
Claude has released something called Fable 5, which is Anthropic's latest language model, and also first publicly available version of Mythos class technology. First of all, whenever I read these model names, I feel like, are we discussing AI or fantasy series?
I know. It sounds like they're like reading out of like an old Dragonlance novel or something.
Yeah. But like seriously, for people who are not refreshing AI Twitter every 6 minutes, what is this and why does it matter?
So I think the biggest jump here is a jump in capability that is surpassing what the expected kind of improvement was going to be. And there's an interesting there's several things at stake here, and there's several things going on at once. And so I think it's a good idea for us to walk through a few things that are important about AI models in general that will make sense in like a minute. So GPT-5, like Chat GPT-5,
Mhm.
they don't tell us how big the model is, but it was estimated that it was a 5 trillion parameter model. And what that means is like there's neurons in your brain. The average human has somewhere in the neighborhood of like 89 trillion neurons in their brain. And GPT-5 had 5 trillion parameters, which for all, I mean, it's oversimplified, but it's basically a neuron, right? It's like a brain that has 5 trillion versus the 89 or 90 that a human has. The Mythos level models and Claude have 10 trillion parameters. So they have twice as many of the neurons to process information as ChatGPT-5 has. And the other thing about it is that it's called a mixture of experts model. What that means is there are more than one AI systems built in to the model at the same time. So when you ask it to do something, it can actually delegate tasks to other AI systems. And all of those tasks can happen at the same time while the main model is solving the hardest parts of the problem and also acting almost like a project manager. So the result of all that is how long the model can run by itself or autonomously. How long can it autonomously work on a problem to develop a solution? And there's a chart of this that some people may have seen. It's kept up by METR, and it's the length of tasks an AI can do with 50% success rate, and that's what they measure. I don't know why 50% is what they chose. That's just how they measure it. Okay. So the like it was kind of on a straight linear trajectory. Like GPT-2 could only work for like 2 seconds on a task and get it right half the time. But GPT-3 could do it for like 10 or 12 seconds. And GPT-4, it could work for 4 minutes, and get the task about 50% of the time correct. The GPT-5, Sonnet, for those ones, they were in about the 1 hour range. They could go and autonomously work on a problem for an hour and come back. And we don't have the exact measurements yet, but it sounds like Fable can work between 9 and 12 hours on a task.
Wow.
So if you imagine the average human's workday is, let's say it's somewhere between 6 and 12 hours, then this new AI can do someone's entire workday task if it was only one task, but that entire workday's task and with 50% success. So it can replace an entire day's work of a person doing a relevant task. So a good example of this would be Ethan Mollick is a professor of Wharton Business School, and he writes about AI all the time. It's a great speaker too. If you ever get a chance to see him, you should go see him. He gave Claude Fable a 19-page software document of all the things that this complex mathematics and statistical tracking software should do. And it chugged away at it for something close to 12 hours. I don't think he knows the exact time because he probably left and came back. But anyways, when it was done, so far in his testing, he hasn't found any errors. So it was able to write a highly complicated piece of software for 12 hours and wrote thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code in hundreds of files, including building the database and all the other things that needed to happen. So the jump in capability has gone from being linear, which is like a line, right? If you take a graph, you got the x-axis and the y-axis, you draw a line up the middle, that's linear, right? Exponential is the hockey stick curve, right? So it goes off the chart. Going from the models being able in 2025 to work for 3 or 4 hours at a time to working 12 hours at a time is the hockey stick graph. So we're kind of getting off the linear curve. We're starting to go up the exponential curve now. So it is exponentially better than the previous models that were released less than 6 months ago.
Wow. And this is all in 2026.
Yeah, that's just this year.
Just this year. When
There's a lot of year left.
I know, right? We're just like, it's just 6 months gone. We still have 6 months to go.
Yes.
And if we're like at that point right now, I wonder what the 2027 is going to be like. And I feel like this is not about, you know, how most people that I talk to, they feel AI updates are just about ChatGPT giving them better responses. But I feel like these models, from what you're saying, are collectively getting more powerful. And companies are also deciding how much of that power they can safely put into public use. So I think that's whole another conversation.
Yeah. There's also a bottleneck in that system, which is the amount of compute that exists. So compute being how much data center computing power can I get to do the things that the model is trying to do? And that's why there's so many data centers being built. Because they've extrapolated out and said, we're going to need this much more compute in the future. And also, they have to buy it in advance, right? So they don't just go, well, I made a new model. I'm going to go down to Best Buy and get 100,000 H100s at $40,000 a pop. Like, it's not something that exists that way. You need 2 to 3 years to say, I'm going to need this many gigawatts of computing power in 2028.
Yeah.
And also, generally speaking, they're paying for that, in advance. And if they get it wrong, they buy too much, then they go broke. If they don't buy enough, then they don't make any money. So that's why there's so much massive amount of investment into compute and data centers, is because they're purchasing the future profit. So they're putting the money in now because they think once they get the scale, then they'll be profitable. And it looks like Anthropic is probably going to be profitable this year. So all the people out on the internet yelling about how every AI company is going broke is because they don't understand how the business model works.
Yeah. And the more I talk to you, the more I feel like I don't know anything. Like, I need to start reading up on these things for sure. And you've also been talking on Substack about mixed reality with AI for marketing. But like, what does that even mean? Can you explain to us, like we're normal people, what do you mean by mixed reality with AI, especially in marketing?
So mixed reality was kind of a term that came out of metaverse kind of thing, which kind of went nowhere and predictably went nowhere. But I think mixed reality and what we're talking about, and this is stuff that you and I do at work every day. What we're doing is we're taking elements of real life, real footage, real photographs, whatever that is, and mixing it with generated stuff to make something that is kind of a hybrid. It's like a mixed reality. It's partial AI, partial reality is the output. And
Yeah.
the argument that everyone is making is either AI is terrible, don't use it, or AI is great, you got to use it or you're going to get left behind. And what seems to work, at least from the anecdotal data that we have and, the clients that we do work for and advertise for, that this mixed reality model is what actually works the best. I don't know if that's what you see from the stuff that you're doing, but from what I could tell, when you started using a combination of real photos and real video and real audio, but mixing that with AI image generators, video generators, voiceovers, things like that, the results improved.
Yeah, they have. And they're also saving me a lot of time. I mean, of course, it took me a while before because I never thought in combinations, right? I was always, oh, let's use ChatGPT or some other tool for this stuff, but I never thought in combinations before. And I think that's something I learned from you. And it took me a lot of time and my brain, a lot of it,
Right.
to get my hands on these tools. But now I've developed that instinct and I know how that flow works. So, and yes, I can see that the clients are happy. Since we work with many small and medium sized businesses, and not all of them have the capacity to sort of shell out a big chunk for just like content production, this mixed reality approach also levels the field for them, right?
It's There's a big difference between a client saying, here's some photos that we've taken of our stuff. Can you post this? And we post it and they get a poor response and they go, how come you're doing something wrong?
Yeah.
Right. Or we say, give us these photos that you have. Let us use the tools that we have in house to fix those things. That's a different outcome.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they're enjoying the outcome as well. Because sometimes clients don't know what's missing. And as long as we fill the gap in a way that elevates their overall presence while still staying true to the brand. Again, to be clear, guys, we're not talking about just like making things up that don't exist. We're talking about taking what's already there and then using the tools to bridge the gap creatively.
I think the other thing about mixed reality is that, like, if we're taking a photograph of, just as an example that I know we've done and we've used on the show before, of we have a photograph of a bunch of chairs, next to some trees with fire pit in the middle. We take an AI to make the trees move a little bit and make it look like the fire's going.
Yeah.
That's not, we're not infringing on anyone's rights or anything like that, right? This is a very light touch use of AI. And when we put those videos out, we get all kinds of comments. People who are like, oh my gosh, I'd love to sit by that fire and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's transparent to the end user.
And that's a real difference, to be honest. Okay, last one. On LinkedIn, you've been posting a lot about how everyone has strong opinions on AI and not of data to back those opinions up. And I want to push you on this because I hear this all the time. People saying audiences don't want AI content and they want more human content. They want authenticity. And I get why that sounds right. It all makes us feel like humanity is still winning, I guess. But like, why isn't that enough? Like, why can't we just trust the instinct?
Well, we could, but the problem is that when we look at the data, it doesn't bear out to be true. And the opinion that everything is human to human and that matters, so don't use AI at all, does not match with when we use AI and we get a better response than when we don't. And I think there is a lot of gray area in the middle here that people are not considering, because people who make their living and think that other people are using AI to replace a job that they do, they are going to tell everyone not to use AI, right? Because
Mhm.
that's how they make their living. But also, they see the lazy, slop content that other people put out, and they use that as an example to say that AI is bad. But then you've got other people who are using AI in a number of different ways, putting out content. And the reason that no one says this is an example of why this is bad is because they can't tell the difference. They can only tell if something has been made with AI if it's crappy. So the other thing is, nobody's giving any data, right? Nobody's out there saying, you have to be authentic because the only people who make decisions are humans, and it's everything in business is a human talking to a human, and that's how you build trust, and that's how you, yada, 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 yada. And that sounds true, but there are a lot of people using AI to do things, selling a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So they can't both be right.
Right. I think that's a really good point because authenticity, I feel, has become one of those words everyone uses, but nobody really defines. And sometimes people say authentic, but just mean I personally like this, which is not exactly data. And
Right.
I also don't think most people are sitting there analyzing a post like, I sense artificial intelligence was used in slide number 3. They're just,
Right.
I think they're just kind of, as you mentioned, right? They're reacting to whether it feels lazy or it feels empty or if it has helped them, entertained them, or taught them something, right? So maybe the real issue isn't AI content versus human content. Maybe it's useful content versus boring content. And I think boring content was doing perfectly fine before AI.
It was still boring before.
Yeah, AI just made it faster.
Right. And lots of people were still crappy at writing before. Right.
Right.
And a lot of crap on LinkedIn was garbage and nobody read it. And now it still is. Right. And I don't know if anyone has ever looked at the internet before the invention of AI, but it was already full of garbage.
It
Right.
was. I agree.
There's crap everywhere. So I think that, the bar has been raised slightly, but the level of ease of making the bar has gotten, you know, to be seconds instead of, somebody spending 25, 30 minutes to write a shitty blog post. Now they can write a shitty blog post in 30 seconds, right?
Right.
And so they're pumping out more of it. So it's more prevalent. But also, there's something that does not make sense about the argument that don't use AI because AI content's bad. Because if all that AI content is so bad, then how come your great content that's not AI is not shining above everything else?
Exactly.
The algorithm, everybody blames the magic algorithm, right? But the algorithms of all of these systems are based on how long people engage with these things or how much they engage with them. And if people don't engage with your content, I don't care if it's AI or not, it's not going anywhere, right? I saw an AI video. It was obvious. I thought it was stupid. It had like 5.6 million views or something.
Wow.
Somebody's watching it, right? And maybe they're not your target market, but I mean, that's some data. Maybe we need to look at all the people who are in your market and look at all the posts that are made by people in that market and build a spreadsheet and put in how much likes and whatever are on all of that content and then see how you can improve on that content and then you can be like, I did this 10 times and this was the result. That's data. It's not a science experiment, but it's good enough, right? If it's like LinkedIn or something, we're not like curing cancer, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we have a client who's cured cancer, but that's not the same. Shout out for Dr. Nagorny curing children's cancers.
Yes. Oh, he deserves many shout outs. We should give him a shout out in every episode.
That's right. If you know somebody who has a late stage cancer, have them go visit the Nagorny Cancer Institute. Just check it out. Just trust me, it'll be worth it. Talking about science based and data, like, could you imagine if like Nagorny Cancer Institute or like Metabolomics or one of these medical science companies was just like, hey, everybody, I think if you're going to cure cancer, what you should do is, and then they just made up some shit that sounded good. Like, That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it sounds good. It only matters if it's true. And it's only true if we can repeatedly, back it up with some data.
Yeah. That's right. Any last words from the AI expert?
And any last words? Sounds like somebody's going to come get me. Um, well, I mean, I was having a discussion a couple days ago at one of my agency groups where I meet with other, like agency owners and stuff. A lot of people are getting a lot of flack about using AI. Um, I've seen things in, community groups. I saw someone the other day who was like basically shouting out this all volunteer historical society that is like, I've gone to their meeting. It's like literally a group of like retired old ladies. And they made a flyer for a fundraiser with Chat GPT, and somebody's just like throwing them under the bus on Facebook. I'm like, is that productive? Like, can we just not do that?
Oh my God, really? That's terrible.
And also, because as we were talking about that Reuters poll earlier, a
Yeah.
lot of people are like kind of hating on data centers and AI and stuff right now. And I mean, with some good reasons, obviously. There's a lot of things that are wrong with tech right now that we should push back on. However, like if I'm a small business or I'm like a middle market brand, I'm out there trying to make a living in a very, very turbulent economy right now. I'll take all the efficiency I could get. I'll take all the reach that I could get of my posts and my ads, right? That's somebody who should talk to us, right?
Yeah.
Hookdm.com, or in Canada, hookdm.ca. Talk to us. If you want somebody who's going to take advantage of every AI tool there is, that's us.
Oh, 100%. That's very much our approach. And I think that's what makes the work exciting for us too. And, we're constantly learning, we're testing and figuring out what actually helps the client. And it's also a lot from the place of curiosity, which is a good thing.
Right? And I've got lots of other agencies I can send you to who will totally do everything by hand if you want.
I have a creative director friend, and every time I talk to him about artificial intelligence, he keeps resisting that talk. He's like, I am still old school. I don't like using AI systems. But like 2 days ago, we sat down and I was like, listen, if you want to get to a location, are you going to walk into a map store and buy a map and then try to figure out how to get there? Or are you just going to use Google Maps and put in the location and get going with it? And basically, what I was trying to tell him was that AI is inevitable. It's like going to seep into our lives whether we want it or not. So it's better to take the time to understand it and get used to it and take advantage of it while we can, because I don't think there's an option. And we'll come to a point where everyone's going to be doing it. And people who didn't take the time to get their hands on these systems are going to feel left out. So what's the point anyway?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
AI is going to become a layer in the stack of how technology works. Like internet is a layer. Like there's your operating system layer, right? And there's networking layer and all this kind of stuff. I remember when you connected to the internet, like you physically would have to connect to the internet. Your
Yeah.
computer wasn't just on the internet, right? You had to like dial up with a modem or connect to your browser or whatever, and then it would go on the internet, right?
I saw a video on that actually.
Yeah. Was it from the Historical Society?
I think so, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it took forever. It took like 10 business days to go online.
Pretty much. Yeah. So anyway, what happens is when it becomes a layer, it's essentially part of everything. Everything that's going to be built that's new and in the tech and software world is going to be on top of that layer. And the automation and AI layer is going to be under that. And that brings up a topic for another show, which we can obviously do sometime soon, which would be talking about automation. Automation and AI are not the same thing, because most people,
Ooh.
when they think about AI and they think about automating tasks, what they're actually thinking about is an automation system plus AI. And those are not the same thing.
Oh, that would be an
So
interesting one. I think we should do that.
that's
That's our
right. Maybe we'll talk about that one in a couple episodes.
couple episodes. Okay, yeah. All right, I think that's a good place to land. Matt, thank you for helping us make sense of all of this without making us feel like we need a computer science degree. At least I feel like that. And everyone listening, we'll keep doing these quick AI updates, but in normal human language, because honestly, it actually feels like public service at this point. All right. Thank you all for tuning in today, and we will see you all in the next one.